One topic I've always struggled to explain in depth is my mentality towards competitive games. Some books my coach, Echo, showed me recently have been extremely helpful at broadening my understanding of this topic. Specifically, I'm referring to The Inner Game of Tennis by W. Timothy Galway and Playing to Win by David Serlin. Both of these books are 100% free to read online, and I will link both of them in the description. Make sure you like and subscribe before you get to reading, though. Before I begin to talk about these books in detail, though, a quick word of caution. Both of these books are geared towards an audience who wants to be the very best, with Playing to Win going into uncomfortable topics related to how good you actually are at the game versus how good you think you are. For a specific example, the arguably most well-known chapter of Playing to Win, introducing the Scrub, goes into self-imposed rules and moral platitudes that people often self-assign and use to justify their losses, and why that makes you objectively a worse player. If you are mentally prepared to acknowledge this fact, and you are willing to spend the time and mental energy learning how to be a better player, please continue watching this video and or reading the books linked below, otherwise please click off. Let's start with my own mentality and how it relates to the books in question. My first true competitive experience was playing at a 10-person Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals in a small hobbyist store near me, starting in January 2020, which I continued to visit on and off for the next half a decade. During that time, I played against mostly the same people who had better access to stronger cards, had access to more competitive events like the regionals hosted in a different city, and had more overall experience than me. How do I win in an environment like this, where I'm already at a disadvantage before I even set foot in the venue? It's quite simple, actually. I start by asking, do I really want to win? Now, that seems like a stupid question. Of course I want to win. But, as Playing to Win goes into, actually wanting to win is a harsh endeavor. In order to win, I need to surround myself with knowledge while spending lots of time and energy consciously chasing the win. I cannot let myself be blinded by notions of thinking I know more than the experts do, or assign moral platitudes such as leader is a skillless weapon, because winning requires objectiveness and humbleness towards the zero-sum aim of can I beat them? If not, why? To tie this back into my Yu-Gi-Oh! Antidote, I spent a lot of time playing what was considered a bad anime deck, a deck called Hero. Now, modern day me would simply have played a meta deck and spent time practicing and learning that, but at the time my competitive mentality hadn't fully developed given that I was still a kid. The important part is I was still vaguely playing to win despite the scrub-like restrictions I had put on myself. I spent multiple hours a day playing the game in online simulators. I would spend most of my off time from work and school talking to others about the game and my deck, and while I wouldn't win or even podium my locals often, I had general enough mastery of the tools at my disposal and a general basic idea of what I could do differently every game that playing to win felt within my power, and even losing felt fun because I was able to slowly start edging out games against the more experienced players. I would say I average roughly 10 to 15 hours a week playing and talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And nowadays, I've simply replaced that time with competitive Splatoon instead. If that sounds like a lot, remember that I'm specifically talking about a mentality befitting someone who aspires to be one of the best players in the scene. If your goal is anything less, say you are in this for the social aspects more than playing to win, you can definitely spend less time and still succeed. But, from my experiences in the scene, I think a lot of people say they want to win, but don't fully mean it. The Inner Game of Tennis, by contrast, focuses less on this side of mentality, the side of harsh realities, and more on how you think about the game. It goes into the idea of a Self 1 and Self 2, your conscious and unconscious mind, and talks about how, given the chance, you must let go of judgment. If you say something along the lines of, fuck, we've already lost, the other team is too good, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy in its own right, as you will not be tuned to playing to win, you will simply be playing to not lose. In Splatoon terms, you must not blame factors out of your control, like getting paired up with a leader and a Swiffer in solo queue, but you must strive to improve yourself and yourself alone. Another important thing the inner game of tennis goes into is the process of learning. It is easy enough to say, I'm objectively bad at the game, I struggle to improve, etc., etc. But that in of itself is not productive for growth. It is the seed that plants itself into the soil, as being humble is the bedrock of understanding. But the process of learning, then, is the next step of the equation. First, you must observe and be non judgmental in your evaluation of play. Next, you must ask yourself, what could I change to do better next time? Then, finally, you must consciously let the change happen. You must, if you see a leader looking at you, let your body hide behind cover and choose the exact moment to strike at it. And if you fail, simply consider what other times would have been better to strike and let yourself adjust with time. That is a bedrock of learning, but one common trap I see people in our scene fall into is I see people staunchly refuse to use the tools available to them to improve, specifically when it comes to solo queue. Although others have gone into this topic way more than I can, to put it frankly, most people's first step towards improving at the game is to simply play the game more than they already are, and to accept the fact that most of the time, yes, it is your objective fault that you lost. You can and should avoid assigning self-proposed rules to hold yourself to a higher moral standard than your opponent, because on the battlefield, morality does not apply. If it wins games, your opponents will stall the Rainmaker in a random corner of the map, they will spawn camp you, they will throw bombs and stay in their base after getting a significant lead. If it gives them even a 1% higher chance of victory, they will take it. And you should too, if you seek the path of being a champion. In summary, the path of learning is the path of hardship. If you want anything less than to be a better player than you were yesterday, you need to put the time in and the focused effort spent on learning. There is no get to mid-level now button. There is no my team lost because we didn't communicate. There is no the leader killed me, they are trash. There is only did I win, did I lose, and if I lost, how can I get better?